Welcome to Lexington, North Carolina. This video is meant to be your all-encompassing guide to all things Lexington, and if you're looking to move to the area, hopefully this helps you learn a little more about it. As we get started, how did Lexington come to be? Around 1775 it was established and named after a city in Massachusetts that had one of their Revolutionary War skirmishes. One of the oldest houses in Lexington still sits uptown Lexington, is known as the Holt House or the Old Homestead, and is a site of a bunch of venues and weddings. And recently sold in 2020 for about $425,000. Like much of North Carolina's economy, Lexington thrived on the textile industry. We made furniture and fabric and all kinds of other things. But ever since the 1990s, when all those jobs went overseas, it's had kind of a crushing blow on not just Lexington, but really all of North Carolina. Now you find factories like these behind me that are shut down and have been shut down for many, many years. Some are crumbling apart. But over the last couple years, we've seen a revitalization of these old buildings that aren't falling apart and being reused for other things like breweries, restaurants, businesses. So it still has the old world charm, but also has the modern conveniences inside. Now, many of the businesses in Lexington have switched over to more of medical instruments, window manufacturing, other types of manufacturing, and paints. If you're looking for things to do when you come into Lexington, there's always festivals going on, fun runs, if you can use those two words together. There's some bars that you can check out with live music, or you can check out some of the 6 wineries that are within 20 minutes of Lexington. These wineries quite often are having live music or events at each one on any given weekend. There are a few parks here in Lexington, with Finch here being the biggest, with a fishing lake, 3 baseball fields, biking trails, a soccer field, and a newly renovated playground. By far though, the biggest festival in Lexington is the Barbecue Festival.
Ever since 1984, the city has held the Lexington Barbecue Festival. It's one of the largest street festivals in North Carolina.
This event shuts down the main center of town with about 150,000 people attending every year, with 6 stages, singers, entertainers, 250 plus arts and crafts vendors, and a car show to boot, along with obviously places to pick up and try your sample of Lexington barbecue.
With the city having over 20 barbecue restaurants, it's hard to pick and choose which one to try out first. Each one has their own unique taste, with the common ingredient being a vinegar-based sauce with their own mixture of spices, anywhere from sweet to tangy.
My only complaint about this event is I wish they had it separate. Each restaurant had their own booth so that you could taste test each one. Unfortunately though, they put it all together into basically one big barbecue to sell to the public. Hey, if barbecue isn't your thing, I get it. There are a few chain restaurants around Lexington as well. You know, your old classics, McDonald's, Burger King, even got a Chick-fil-A a few years ago. And there's a bunch of mom and pop restaurants too, and at least 3 bakeries in town for that sweet tooth for your cakes and donuts. Hey, if you're from the area, comment down below and let other people know what is the best barbecue restaurant in Lexington. This should be interesting.
Lexington itself is the county hub, meaning it's kind of like the capital of the county. This is where the county courthouse is and all the county matters are settled. Now it has the newly designed Davidson County Courthouse, along with the old original Davidson County Courthouse up the road that serves as our historical museum for Lexington. Over the past several years, this uptown part has really grown a lot. You'll find, again, bakeries, some small restaurants, although those come and go. Some have died off, some are being reborn. You also found some boutiques, some antique shops, and of course there's pigs throughout the city to celebrate that barbecue heritage.
Let's discuss some of the demographics of Lexington. Right now, the population of Lexington is around 20,000, which is much smaller than our biggest local city, which would be Greensboro, North Carolina. It's around 300,000 people. Now, obviously square mileage comes into play here, so Greensboro is a bigger city than Lexington as far as just square mileage goes. About 43% of the Lexington residents are married, meaning, hey, if you're looking for somebody.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
ethnicities around Lexington are about 47% white, 29% black, 3% Asian, 0.3% Native American, and the rest is just other. Crime in Lexington is a lot like any other city. You'll find it more towards the city centers where the population is more dense, and unfortunately a lot of times that's also where you find lower income population. Now, according to neighborhoodscout.com, there's only a 1 in 197 chance of you or a person in Lexington becoming a victim of a violent crime, and a 1 in 33% chance of having some sort of property crime. That could be vandalism, that could be something stolen, anything around that area. As a comparison though, Greensboro only has a 1 in 28% chance of having any kind of property crime. Now, according to a poll done by niche.com, when they asked residents of Lexington, do you feel safe? Here's what their answers were. 64% of the residents said they generally feel safe, but there's a few issues they have concerns about. 18% said that they feel safe with no concerns at all, and the remainder said that they don't really feel too safe, but there is a police presence around. Most complaints I hear about Lexington though is the homeless population and the prevalent drug use. According to one source I found online at rehabnow.com, it said that 9%, well, a little over 9% of Lexington residents have suffered in the past year of substance abuse. Although I couldn't find on the website what year that was and when this was published, so do your own research if you're that concerned. The homeless population and panhandlers have seemed to have grown over the last few years in Lexington. Now, don't take this the wrong way. Yes, obviously there are people in the down times that need some help, but it doesn't help the city to look good and to kind of attract more people to the area with homeless people wandering the downtown streets and panhandlers asking for money. So what's keeping them here? Well, clearly the panhandlers are getting paid, I guess, and the homeless, there's numerous churches and other societies in town nearby the main streets that feed them breakfast or stuff that help them out. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't help them, they should help them. But with it being in the downtown area, it draws them to the downtown area, and it doesn't look good and doesn't really make them want to move to the area. From what I've seen in Lexington, I've seen them set up tent cities, miniature tent cities in wooded areas, kind of like this behind me, in parks and other places where there's not a whole lot of foot traffic. But the problem is they'll stay there for a short period of time, or they might be there a long period of time. But when they do eventually leave, they leave all their trash behind as well. Overall though, the Triad and Lexington is thriving with a unemployment rate of around 3.2% of the making of this video, with the all of North Carolina being around 3.5. Now, according to the Winston-Salem Journalist, most economists consider 5 full employment, meaning that everybody that wants a job has a job. In the description down below, I've included a list of some of the biggest employers in Davidson County, which is where Lexington is, and maybe help you find a job in the future if you're looking to move to the area. Now, there's a big employer getting ready to move to Lexington itself, and that's Siemens Mobility. They are set to be coming to the Lexington airport area and spending around $220 million on a new facility. This facility is supposed to be hiring around 500 people, so that's, again, help our jobless rate drop even more, and also bring about $1.6 billion to the economy over the next few years. So one big reason why people come to Lexington and North Carolina in general is our lower cost of living compared to a lot of places in the United States. According to bestplaces.com, Lexington ranks 82.6 as far as cost of living compared to the rest of the United States being at a 100, with North Carolina overall just being at a 91. The only thing I've found that ranks a little bit higher is that healthcare is a little bit higher, which I find odd, but I'm guessing it's because of the proximity to hospitals and other specialists you might need. It's not exactly close to these bigger cities. If you need a specialist, a lot of people go to Duke or Raleigh or Durham, that area, which is about 2 hours, hour and a half away. Unfortunately for education, Lexington is not ranked the highest. Niche.com ranks them overall with a C, but there are a few highly ranked early colleges and private schools in the area that might be more to your liking. A lot of times these early colleges and the private schools do rank considerably higher than the public traditional schools. Lexington has what most would consider pretty mild weather, with January being our coldest month, and we only get about 3 months of really cold weather. During that time, we have a average high of around 50 degrees and average low around 31. But what people really love is that we actually have 3 seasons. So you get to enjoy the winter, but not being too bad. You get to enjoy the summer without being too, 110 degrees. And then you also get very nice fall weather. What I find catches a lot of people off guard that choose to transplant here is the amount of pollen. While the flowering trees and flowers are beautiful, they create tons of pollen and can create waves of pollen in the air. And I do mean waves, sheets of pollen. Just like you see sheets of rain when a really bad storm comes, you can see that around here when you get in certain areas. Pine trees are especially bad. On a nice windy day, you'll see sheets of pollen blowing through the air. At its peak, you might as well just forget to wash your car, because within a few minutes, it's going to have those little specks of pollen all over it again. Now, when it comes to finding your new North Carolina home, there are a variety of places to live in Lexington. Whether you want to be in the city or in the country, there's Lexington addresses actually cover a large area, even though the city itself is pretty small. Right now at the filming of this video, if you're looking for something that maybe is a little dated, needs a little updates, looking for like a 3-2 on half an acre, around, let's say 1,500 square foot, you're going to be looking at a house that's probably going to be in the higher 190s to even the mid or 230s. Depending on the size of the house, lot, things like that. Now moving along for something that's pretty much comparable, but newer in the 2000s to, let's say 2020, you're gonna be looking for something probably around the 250 to 300 mark. But if you want to move to an area looking for something less hassle, now when you're getting ready to move to North Carolina, I'd love to hear from you. You can call me, you can text me, you can DM me, you can leave a comment, whatever. Just get a hold of me. I'd love to talk to you and kind of get you started on the right foot. But if you want to move to an area looking for something less hassle, that you aren't going to have to fix up and that is very modern, there is tons of new construction going on around Lexington. Most of this new construction starts around the, they say 290s, but let's just consider 300 to 400 range to mid 4s. Now you can go on up to the mid 6s for some of the more elaborate homes that want to be like a 4-bedroom, 4-bath type of thing. And prices, of course, are going to vary depending on exactly what it is you're looking for. Because if you have 2 homes that are exact same, but one sits on half an acre in the city and one sits on, let's say, 5 acres in the country, there's going to be a totally different price point. Now, one popular part of Lexington is around the High Rock Lake area. And it's further south, it's more in the rural parts of Lexington. So if you're looking for something with some acreage, not on High Rock, you can get a little bit of acreage down that way. But if you're looking to be on the water to enjoy the lake life, then that might be an option for you to look at and still be around the Lexington area. Now, High Rock is actually the 5th biggest lake in all of North Carolina. It's the first lake in the chain of lakes that the Yadkin River feeds. Now, because of that, it's also probably the dirtiest. Now, I don't mean it's nasty as far as trash, although it does get trash, but it's the first one when we have a rain or something like that, collects all the logs, collects all the sediment, collects everything first, and filters it for basically the other lakes down the road. Now, this sediment buildup, if you're looking for a house on High Rock, is something to really keep in mind, or any lake for that matter, because I have seen houses that have piers going out into the water sitting on just mud. So you want to keep that into account, the water depth that you're looking at, especially, I mean, if you're on the lake, I'm assuming you're probably going to want a boat. So you're really going to want to take into account the depth of the water, exactly what the house you're looking at. And also on High Rock, you're going to want to take into account of where that falls as far as repairs on the pier. I know it's pretty limited sometimes on lakes on what you can and can't do. Now, if you're looking for something on the lake, you can find some stuff with HOAs that help kind of control the community. You can find stuff without HOAs that is less restrictive, but you also got a chance of there being a single wide trailer sitting next to your $1 million house, potentially. You see that variety of homes in areas that aren't controlled by things like an HOA. Now, the other problem with going south and being around the lake is that you're not close to anything. From the heart of Lexington, you're looking at a 26-minute ride to Winston-Salem, which is the biggest, closest city. Down at the High Rock side, you're going to be around 57 minutes. And depending on what part of the lake you're on, or what side of the lake you're on, your trip, if you was to go to Charlotte, went from, let's say, 45 minutes to 50 minutes to about an hour and a half now, because there's no real good way straight through the lake. You kind of have to go around and down to get there. Are you ready to find your North Carolina home? I'd love to hear from you. I got a link down below in the description of all the homes in the Triad that are currently for sale. It'll be updated continually, so it should be good anytime you watch this video. And if you aren't looking in the Triad, but you'd still like to talk, I'd love to talk to you. I even have a form down below if you're not looking in the Triad to help you find a Rockstar agent anywhere in North Carolina. Thanks for watching the video, and take a look at this one right here so that you get started on the right foot.